This is good for a $2,000 fourth stimulus check. I have all the details and what you need to know right here in the video, so let's get right into it. I know in this video, I'm going to share with you the details of a report that was just released that is actually a good thing when it comes down to a $2,000 fourth stimulus check. Now, what they talked about in this report is actually a metric that they watch very, very closely, and it gives indication as to when more stimulus is needed. According to what they're talking about here in this report, it is only a matter of months until more stimulus may be needed in a pretty big way, and that's what I want to focus on here in the video. Let's get into it and talk through all the details. Really fast before we do, thanks so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe right down below the video. It's totally free to do so, and I'm here for you right by your side every single day, bringing you the latest details as this information is hitting the wire, doing all this research and breaking it all down so you can stay posted on what is actually going on and how it may impact you, your money, your benefits, your lifestyle, your bank account, and anything popping up right now you can possibly grab and or take advantage of. So again, please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and I'll be here for you every single day, no matter what. That's my promise, and as always, I'm sticking to it. All right, now let's get into it and talk about the details of this report and what these numbers actually mean, as this is a key indicator over the last few years here, and this is dwindling down fast. Based on the details of this report, they're showing basically between now and the end of the year or early next year, we could be completely out of money. Therefore, according to the report here, we will probably need a lot more stimulus in a pretty big way. Let me break down the details of this. Now, stick with me on this. I'll explain it in a way that hopefully makes a little bit of sense here, but this is a report that's out there right now, and basically they track us, the people, okay? Based on what we're doing, as in our finances, this is another indication as to when more stimulus would likely be coming, okay? All right, now let me break down the details of this report. So this is out of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, okay? So you probably heard me talk about the Federal Reserve, like Jerome Powell and all those people, stuff like this. This is the Federal Reserve Bank out of San Francisco, okay? All right, now here's the details about this. Here's what they found. Americans had savings of $2.1 trillion as of August of 2021, okay? Now, obviously, that was, a couple years ago, but August of 2021, American people had $2.1 trillion in savings. Now, let me ask you really quickly, and I'm going to get right back to it. Do you think that they were going to send out another stimulus check at that time? Now, here's the thing. We didn't know that the American people were sitting on over $2 trillion of savings at the time. We did not know that. They knew it, we didn't know it, right? However, they knew that we had that much money. Again, by the way, if you think that we're not being tracked, oh, we're being tracked. They're watching everything about us, okay? They know how much money we have. That's exactly why they know this information about us. They know how much money we have collectively as consumers. All of us together, at the time, a couple years ago, $2.1 trillion we had in savings. Now, again, we didn't know that. However, they knew there's no way that they were going to send out stimulus at that time. They knew that there was a ton of stimulus already out there built into the savings account of the American people. However, now get this. As of just a couple months ago, that $2.1 trillion has been dwindled down to $500 billion, okay? It has dropped significantly. $2.1 trillion down to $500 billion as of a few months ago, okay? What does that mean? Is that good or bad? Depends how you look at it. When it comes down to the consumer, it's probably a bad thing because it simply means that we had over $2 trillion of savings. Now we have $500 billion of savings. We basically have no money left in savings, okay? But when it comes down to, the Federal Reserve and things like that, they're looking at it and saying, this is great. We're basically siphoning all the cash out of the accounts of people. That's what they want, okay? Now, again, whether you believe it or not, and again, I'm not here to say conspiracies or stuff like that, they basically don't want us to have any money, okay? The reason for that is then they can manipulate us and they can basically have us do whatever they want, right? We're basically the puppet of them then, okay? And again, I'm not here taking political sides. I'm just simply saying this is how it really comes down to. They don't really want us to have a bunch of excess savings like what we did in August of 2021, because that may translate into a lot of extra inflation like what we've been dealing with basically starting in early 2021, right? And again, when they talk about all this stuff, they simply tell us when we have too much savings, too much money in savings, too much money at our disposal, then we see massive inflation because a lot of us are buying stuff, right? And again, they want to get that money out of our possession so that we stop buying stuff. That's the whole reason behind the rate hikes as of recently. The last, couple years here, we've seen massive rate hikes out of the Federal Reserve, stuff like that. Again, the whole point of that is to basically get money out of our hands so that we stop buying stuff. That's literally what it comes down to, okay? That's what they think stops inflation. Anyway, now let's fast forward and talk about the details of this report as far as what they indicated between now and the end of the year and early next year, 2024, okay? Here's what they found. This $500 billion that we have left collectively across all the American people, they said that we have $500 billion left, obviously, give or take a little bit. They project that this is maybe going to last us between now and the end of the year, maybe early next year in 2024. So in other words, what they're saying is this $500 billion that we have left in our possession, they'll have it out of our hands within the next, call it 5-6 months or so. They're anticipating it's going to be out of our possession. In other words, they're going to siphon it out of our hands. They're going to siphon it out of our bank accounts by high inflation, by raising interest rates, and essentially getting all that money out of us, okay? And again, remember, that's the moral of the story here. They're trying to get the money out of us, remember? That's the whole purpose behind what they believe is going to lower inflation. If they get the money away from us, we can't spend it, therefore, we can't drive inflation higher. Kind of twisted system, right? Well, this is what's going on here, and this is what actually happens out there, okay? So here's what they're finding. They want that $500 billion away from us. They don't want us to have it, okay? But they project it's only a matter of a few more months here until they'll have it, okay? So as a result of that, what happens then? The consumer has no more money to spend. Well, what happens? Well, the economy really starts to suffer at that point, okay? I've been talking about this for a while now, and this is one of the metrics that we need to watch is how much consumer, basically money, discretionary money, does the consumer have, okay? The more discretionary income, the more discretionary money that a person has at their disposal, the less likely of stimulus actually happening because it kind of offers the reverse effect, right? They want us to have very little money so that when they give us money, and it's, in the form of stimulus checks, things like that, it'll have a much more better impact on the economy, right? So when the American people have no money, they've depleted it all out of us, and they've taken all the money through, all these different means and stuff like that, high inflation, high prices, raising interest rates, all this stuff like that. When we are completely depleted of money, we have nothing left. We're hungry, right? We're really hungry for some money. When they give it to us, it has a much better impact on the economy when we all go out to spend it. Does all that kind of make sense? Now, let me give you a quick example. Let's just say back in August of 2021, when we, the consumer, had $2.1 trillion in savings. If they would have given us a stimulus check at that time, would it have a big impact or little impact? It would have a very little impact. It would have had no impact whatsoever other than driving inflation higher because we already had $2.1 trillion in cash. Why would another stimulus check at that time, again, for the vast majority of people, would it really stimulate the economy? Not really. But when they talk about in, say, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months from right now, when they depleted the last $500 billion out of our possession, and all of a sudden nobody has any money, we're super hungry, they give us a little something, do you think we're going to gobble that thing up right away and spend it? Yeah, you better believe we're going to, right? Think of it just like a meal, right? You go to a buffet. This is the analogy like the 2.1 trillion, right? You go to a buffet. You have all the food you could possibly ever want. Do you think you're going to go through and eat all of it and it's going to have much of an effect? No, not really, right? But think of it now. Now all of a sudden we're kind of hungry. We haven't had any food in a week, right? We're super hungry. We don't have much left. We've been living on, peas and corn or something for the last week, right? We haven't had a whole lot. Now they serve us a big old plate of food. Are we going to be hungry for it? Are we going to eat it all up? Yeah, we're probably going to, right? We're probably going to eat it all up and lick our plates clean. At least, maybe some of us will. Speaking for myself, just saying, I don't want to speak for anybody else here, but I'm just saying, right? We may do that, okay? Same thing when it comes down to stimulus, right? So anyway, these metrics is something that they're watching very closely here, okay? So when it comes down to the consumer having no more money, what happens? Well, inflation drops because less money chasing the same old goods and services, therefore prices must fall, or at least what they're telling us, prices must go down. Well, will prices actually go down or will they stabilize? Prices will most likely stabilize. I don't really foresee prices going down all that much, like I've talked about before in the videos. However, now let's talk the other details about this, okay? So when the consumer is completely depleted of cash, does that mean businesses are booming? No, not really, because how are they booming if consumers don't have any cash? Remember, there could still be business-to-business sales, but who cares? If businesses are going to be probably in the same position, right? As in, if consumers don't have money to spend at the businesses, where do the businesses get the money? They don't have any, except for big corporations that have billions and billions of dollars to set aside. Other than that, most businesses don't have any money because the consumers are not coming through the door, buying their products and services. Therefore, they're not giving revenue, they're not getting profits, stuff like that. And the whole cycle continues. Do you get what I'm saying here? Same old thing. So this is a major, major metric that we need to watch. Businesses, as a result of that don't have, revenue coming in, profits to be made, they're laying off people. They need to start cutting inventory. They need to start cutting payrolls. They need to start letting people go. And again, that's where the unemployment rate starts to go up. More people filing for unemployment benefits. The economy is slowing rapidly. Things like that. Okay. Do you see how all of this is highly correlated together? It is. Okay. So when it comes down to it, there was a lot of money that was printed. In fact, between early 2020 and basically the first half of 2021, basically about a year and a half time, they printed $6 trillion. $6 trillion takes a long time to work through the system, okay? Here we are a few years later, and it looks like a lot of this money is basically being depleted, okay? They're depleting it out of us. It's taken a long time here. And again, don't get me wrong. This is talking on a macro level across all people across the entire country. I get it. A lot of people were depleted of money, 5 minutes after the check came in, the money was all gone. I get it. But they're talking on a big macro scale here, okay? They're talking about all the consumers collectively across the entire country. And they're basically, right down to the wire here. $500 billion left of the $2.1 trillion massive mountain of cash that we had apparently at that time about 2 years ago. So you kind of see the whole circling around about this. So again, when it comes down to it, remember, as I've mentioned before in other videos, anytime that we get a stimulus check, it has nothing to do with anything based on whatever's going on, viruses spreading around, stuff like that. It has nothing to do with that. That may be the catalyst, but really, what it really comes down to is the economic factors, okay? All of the economic factors. Is the unemployment rate rising? Are people losing jobs? Are people being hired? Are there, more profits being made? Is there revenue coming in? Are consumers spending money? What's going on with the economy? That's really what it comes down to. The economy is all important, and that's what it comes down to when they determine the likelihood of more checks going out. Does all that kind of make sense? Anyway, this is a very important metric. I want to bring this to your attention. This is something we've got to watch very, very closely going forward. So anyway, just came across this report. Want to share this with you. Had no idea at the time, a couple years ago, in August of 2021, no clue that we were sitting on 2.1 trillion. That would have helped us better determine if more checks were going to be coming. Now that this money is depleting very rapidly here, and we're only down to, not that much money left collectively across the entire country. Remember, that is across all people. There's 334 million people in the country. There's $500 billion. That doesn't equate to all that much money per person, okay? All it takes is a few people to have a lot of money set aside, and that accounts for a lot of people, okay? My point is, when you average all that out across all the American people, it's not that much money that people have left, if any, for a lot of people as well. Make sense? So anyway, this is actually a good thing. When it comes down to more stimulus and more stimulus checks that possibly may be needed, we want to see this number, even though it's a bad thing for the consumer, we want to see this number go down because it simply means more stimulus checks are kind of on the horizon, if that makes sense, right? Now, again, this is not a promise for anything. I have no clue what Congress is going to do going forward, and I don't want to pretend like I do know what they're going to do because I don't. They don't even know what they're going to do. They have no idea. They don't have a clue what they're going to do, right? They don't have a plan. They never have, probably never will, okay? Anyway, all I'm saying is that this is a metric that we got to watch very closely as this will have drastic impacts on the economy as a whole. The unemployment rate, which as I pointed out before in other videos, is very, very important when it comes down to stimulus. All kinds of things like this, very important stuff. Anyway, hope this helps you. Again, make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out any of the other thousands of videos here on the channel. Until next time, enjoy your day, take care, have a good one, and I'll catch you again later.